Frank, to have rowed the Atlantic Ocean solo for a second time, how big a personal challenge was that?
Well, it was a much bigger personal challenge than I thought it was going to be. I'd done it the previous year, about 4 years previous, and it was difficult, but I expected it to be difficult. But this time it was very difficult. I think first time was probably 6 out of 10 for difficulty, and this time was more like 8 or 8.5 out of 10. There was much more. I was having to row against the wind. The idea with rowing solo is that you get assistance from the wind. If you've got a boat that's got 2, 3 or 4 rowers, then you can row against the wind because you're going to be rowing all the time. But with me, when I stop, it blows me backwards. So that's the problem that I had. It was more difficult than I anticipated, even though I'd done it before.
I know from speaking to you while you're out in the ocean and from speaking to Luke as well, the challenges or some of the challenges that you faced. Can you go through maybe some of the biggest difficulties that you came across while you're out there?
Well, the boat rolled over during the night while I was in bed, so I expected it to roll over, but I thought it would roll over, but you're not expecting it at that particular time. And all of a sudden, over you go, and everything that's loose in the boat comes clattering down on top of your head, whether it's the big tin of peanuts or all the Mars bars and my clothes, but also then water came in the cabin because I've got some good ventilation on it, which you need out there. So I got drenched as well. All my clothes got drenched and the bed got drenched, so that was a bit of a shake-up. So I decided I spoke to Judith and told the situation. She says, have a rest. It's okay then. So what happened is that I decided to have a day off. So I put the sea anchor out. Now, the sea anchor is a big parachute. It's about 2 meters diameter, and you put it in the sea and you pull it and it fills up, so it holds the boat in that position. And then it becomes pretty easy really, because you're tied up to 100 meters of rope and it just rides over the waves, and it makes little things a lot easier. But you have to assemble the sea anchor, you have to fasten the ropes to it and all this type of thing. So I was doing that, just sat on the deck, and this big wave came and smacked into the side of the boat, smacked into me and sent me flying. I lost my hat, I lost my glasses, I lost parts of the sea anchor, but most importantly, I lost a warning device called an EPIRB, which is something that's linked to satellites, so that if there's an emergency, I just trigger it and it tells the satellites that I'm in a situation. So then they put emergency plans into place. The Coast Guard does that from Cornwall. Anyway, what happened is that that got washed overboard and it triggered. All the electronic devices on the boat started bleeping, telling me there was an emergency in my area. So I got onto the race organiser, says there's been a false activation of the EPIRB. Can you get onto the Coast Guard and tell them to stand it down? So within 5-10 minutes, everything stopped bleeping, and that's what they'd done. So we didn't have a big ship diversion to come and pick me up.
I think the first 2 capsizes were after day 5 or 6, so you must have been 500 miles into the journey by then. When you're a couple of 100 miles into the Atlantic Ocean and you capsize in the middle of your sleep, what goes through your mind?
Well, you start to doubt really whether it's what you want to do, because you haven't been at it very long, and all of a sudden you're not enjoying it like you expected to enjoy it, and it becomes a bigger challenge than you expected this time, because it wasn't like that last time. So I start to think, do I really want to do this? And then you start to think that, oh well, can I get out of it? And you start thinking, what's going to happen if I just call it off? Oh well, then you start thinking, hang on, it's going to have serious repercussions here. We're going to get people are not going to see it as a serious attempt. We're going to get people, that's really what people think, really, isn't it? And then, hang on, I'm not going to be raising the funds that I've attempting to do for the charity. The charity is not going to benefit from it. So then after 20 minutes you start thinking, I've got to go on. I can't not do it. I can't not do it. I've got to go on. So then you get your head down, you start rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing, listen to the music, louder music, faster music, and then after a day that starts to shake off, and then 2 days farther down the road, you're enjoying it really. You know, it's nice, clear weather, and it's not too rough, and the boat's moving in the right direction. And then after about, you got to realise I was at sea for 9 weeks. And then after a few weeks, about 4 or 5 weeks, the wind started to change. And the wind in that sea area should always come from the east or from the northeast, and it started coming from the south and the southwest, which was blowing me off course and blowing me backwards. And then there would be no wind, and then the current would change, and the current would take me backwards or take me around in a big circle. And you can see that, which lasted a few days when there was a deadlock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And there wasn't just me, everybody in that sea area within 500 miles having the same problems. So then again, you start to think, am I really enjoying this? Is this what it's really for? You can't do anything then, you've got to carry on. So again, knuckle down and carry on. And
I think when you crossed the finish line and did your first interview, I think you said then how exhausting it was. Certainly, I think you said you're out of energy on the last couple of days.
Well, yeah.
Just how much energy did it sap from you?
Well, what happened is that about 4 weeks from the end, we're trying to arrange the family to come and meet me. So we're trying to guess when I'm going to be there. So we estimated loop book flights, and then all of a sudden I'm put back another week. So he puts reschedules the tickets, puts them back another week. Then I slip back even further. So then eventually we buy the tickets and they set off. So then I put a little bit more emphasis on my rowing. Because you're rowing all day and every day, it's like walking. You don't walk at the fastest pace you can. You go at a pace that you can walk at all day. Probably, if you're walking casually, you do about 2.5 miles an hour. And I was doing it, rowing at about 2.5 miles an hour. And then what happened is that when the family was there, I started to increase my pace to probably 3.25 miles an hour. And I also increased the hours I rowed. And when I went on the oars, I would look how far I got to go, and imagine I've got 257 miles to go. I thought, well, I won't rest now till I've done 7 miles. Well, that could be 3 hours, or it could be 7 hours. You know, so then I'd row until that would happen, until the speed would trigger that to 250 miles, and then I would then have a sleep. And I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours, 3, 4 or 5 hours, whatever time of day it was, and then get back on the oars again and set off again. And because I was putting so much more effort into it, I was becoming more tired. And 2 days from the end, I was rowing, and I thought, I'm rowing here, but I'm only going through the paces. I'm not actually pulling on the oars. I'm just only going in instead of pulling on them. So I thought, I'm getting tired here. So I phoned Judith. I said, hey, Judith, I've got a problem. I'm losing my strength. I said, I'm not putting the effort in. She said, I need to have the effort to get the last 2 miles into the harbour. She says, have a rest. She says, go and have a couple hours sleep. So I went on a 3 or 4 hours sleep, and afterwards I also had loads of Kit Kats, chunky Kit Kats are really good for energy, and crunchy bars. So a dollop of those and some nuts, and I was feeling my strength going back slowly. And then I did well. The wind changed in my favour, and the current was increasing in my favour. So, oh, I'm doing good here. And I was 35 miles offshore. And the rules are that once you're 20 miles offshore, you radio you phone up the race organiser and tell them I'm going to be in 20 miles to go. So I thought, well, I'm 35, I thought that'll do, you know. So I phoned them at 35, I said, will this do as a 20-mile information, me telling it, start again, will this do as a 20-mile warning? No, he says, phone me again when you're in 20 miles. Okay, fair enough. But I was really tired then, so I thought, I'll just have 2 or 3 hours sleep. So I fell asleep. Well, 8 hours I slept for. Oh, the boat went like the clappers. And and it drifted off course as the wind changed more from the south. It started to blow me north, and when I woke up, I was 8 miles off the destination. So I'll just radio in and let them know I've missed the 20 miles. You had 8 miles left to do. So I radioed in, I phoned in. He said, Hank, he says, you're off course. He says, you're nearly running the ground. No. So the boat had, instead of coming into the island on the side, it had drifted, and it was at the top end of the island, but only 1 mile off coast. So he said, the race organiser said, we've sent the media boat out to like guide you in. Okay, so I turned the boat round and started putting effort into my rowing. Again, about 3.5 miles an hour I was rowing at, but the boat wasn't going at that speed. That was the effort I was putting in because I was working against the wind. The current was still favourable, the wind was blowing me sideways. So anyway, the media boat came and says, you've got to go in that headland there. This is once you get around the headland, it'll start to go easier. So there was about 6 or 8 headlands I had to go around, and every time I went around a headland, the wind direction started to hit the boat on a different place until eventually, after headland number 6, it was more on the back of the boat, so that helped me to get in. But I rode non-stop for 11 hours on that last day, and it really pulled my hands to bits. I was really tired when I got in. But I got in, and there was no tow required, fortunately.
You mentioned the winds a couple of times there. On a journey of that distance,
as a solo rower, you can only do that crossing because the wind and the waves and the currents are favourable, because there's got to sleep. So when you sleep, you can't have it so the wind is blowing you backwards or the current's moving you backwards. Like if there's 2, 3, 4 or 5 rowers, then you can go past them because you can roll through it. But as a solo rower, you can't, because you've got to sleep. So it's important. That makes it possible for us. There's probably only one ocean really that you can row as a solo with any level of safety, and that's what I did. It's just too difficult to do it. You can't row across the Pacific solo because you can't get away from the Americas. You can't get away from the shore. For the first 400 miles is extremely difficult, whether that's South America or the USA or Mexico. You just can't get away.
We watched the finish in the Broadway Street, all the staff gathered together, and I think there wasn't anyone who couldn't get carried away with the emotion when you crossed the finish line and saw Judith and the family for the first time. Yeah. When you got off the boat and saw Judith, what were your emotions like? Well,
I'm a very emotional bloke. I'm a very emotional bloke, and I soon have tears, particularly when it's family involved, you know, and it's very, very much, it's magic. Seeing all the family were there, all cheering me on, and everybody was happy. And it's while you're rowing, that's all you think about. You know, you think about all the time, thinking about finishing. You don't think about, it's nice, enjoy the moment. You think, I've got to put effort in this. I want to finish, and yeah, it's fantastic.
You completed the road course for Alzheimer's Research UK. You renamed your boat For a Cure. How important is that close to your heart?
Well, Alzheimer's is the cause is very close to my heart. I have 5 friends, close friends, and relatives in the past 4.5, 5 years have died from dementia, from Alzheimer's, and that compares with only 2 people I know who died from COVID. So that's a big. My brother-in-law Roger died of Alzheimer's while I was at sea last time. And Roger was a special person. Roger had Down syndrome. He couldn't talk, couldn't Roger? We understood what he wanted. We had gestures, and he could say an odd word. I was Hank, which is an easy word for him to say. And if he didn't like something, he used to say no good. You know, so he could say a few words. But we didn't realise he had Alzheimer's because we just thought he got old. He was just losing his strength and his vitality and his we didn't realise at all. So it's special for Roger. And also my best mate in later life was Phil Wiggett, local builder. You know, Phil, we got early onset Alzheimer's, which not just the 6. Phil died last year with it. You know, so Tony Eglin, co-owner of Oldham Motor Company, good friend of ours, been on holiday with him. You know, he died. There's so many people that we know have died from dementia just lately. It's sad. So anything I can do to correct that, to make people aware of dementia and what we can do about it. And you know, there's no cure for dementia. There's a few treatments around, but to stall it, but there's no cure. And that's really what I did it for, is to find a cure for dementia. And that's all the funds that's been raised. 100% of the funds raised will go to finding a cure for dementia.
You mentioned the word there, aware, making people aware, and it's something that struck me when Mickey Mellon was speaking to you on the Zoom call last week, because I've certainly learned things by taking part and by the club's participation in this, as well as the fundraising element of it, which is significant. How important is it that you your work in raising awareness?
Well, it's really important, because I've raised awareness. I have the general public of the UK probably are not aware that dementia is the biggest killer. It's the biggest killer in the UK now. More people die of it than anything else. 1 in 2 of us are going to be directly affected by it, whether it's you that gets it, or whether it's a spouse, but whoever it is, if it's next door neighbour, you are directly affected by that. You know, you're called on to help because it's such a debilitating condition. Yeah, so.
Just a final couple of questions. I think it's your first time properly back at Boundary Park. I know you had a brief pop in on Tuesday, but your first time back properly. How pleased are you to be back, or what's it like to be back?
Oh yeah, I'm buzzing. I can see there's been changes made. There's been changes, and the chairman didn't know about these changes. I can't remember signing these off. There's definitely changes happening here for the benefit of the club, for the academy, for the BTEC students, and even tomorrow we're having an open day for girls who want to join the BTEC course here in football. Wow, that is special. We're moving in the right direction. We've got proper classrooms over there, so they can have classroom training. I'm really, really happy the way things are going. Things are continuing to go in the direction that the Rothwell family have in mind.
Since you've completed your role, while you're out there, the team on the pitch have moved up into the playoff places. Yeah. There really seems to be a sense of momentum that's gathering now as we approach the end part of the season, and on Saturday there's going to be best part of 12,000 supporters in Boundary Park to welcome you home. How much are you looking forward to that?
Wow, do you know, I'm gobsmacked. Again, they did this without the chairman's permission. They did not ask my permission to sell tickets for £1 a go. Whoa, what's all that about? No, it's a welcome Frank home game. That will be special. And the thing is though, I've never stuck for words, but I just don't know what I'm going to say. You know, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? I just want to thank everybody for the donations they've made, and for coming here and giving support. And all these people, then everybody here is then fully aware of Alzheimer's, and they'll be trickled down, so more and more people in Oldham will become more and more aware of it and what they can do, and that'll trickle down to the whole of the north of England, and we'll get some television coverage from it, I'm sure, as well.
Well, I think I speak on behalf of everyone at the club when I say that you've done everyone connected with the club so proud by completing this road. We've all got the greatest admiration for you and the greatest respect. If we didn't have it before, then we've certainly got that for you now.
Well, thank you very much. You know, and it's I think it spreads out further than that. I think it spreads out to Oldham. You know, I think everybody from Oldham wants ownership, wants a part of it, and I want everybody from Oldham to have a part of it and feel a part of. I want everybody in Oldham to feel a part of Oldham Athletic here. And on May the 6th, when our Ulster Athletic World Cricket Cup. I don't know what we're going to call it yet. We're Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and England playing cricket on here, and a girls' team. That is going to be special. I want to make that a really, really special one. Next week, I'm going to start banging the drum on that. Once my last television appearance is on Sunday, after that, then I'll have a shave and we'll start all over again.
Great. Well, a lot of people on, I know you don't check social media, but a lot of people have said that we need to get 3 points on Saturday, but most importantly, we need to get 3 points for you on Saturday. So
yes,
we'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Frank.